I've got 3 slides and really only want to talk to you for about 15 minutes to set some context and then we'll be on the panel. Can I acknowledge Jen, Beth and Emma who are here from the university. And we want to share with you the experience that we've had with the workplace. Jen's kindly acknowledged my role as an ambassador. I love it. I think it's fabulous. And staff say to me, do you look at it all the time? And I say, why wouldn't you? Why don't you? Why aren't you? But what I'd make the key point, clearly where I am, and the multiple of red around me, you can't just use the tool, you have to use a tool that helps you understand the analytics of the tool. And so for us, working in partnership both with Workplace but SWOOP has been quite powerful. Who are we? You can read that. We're a university, Australian Catholic University, 34,000 odd students. We operate across a very diverse platform from Brisbane through to Ballarat and through then to Rome, as you do when you're a Catholic university. About 2,500 staff across those campuses, but another 2,000 casual staff who regularly told us they're disengaged. They have short sessional engagements with us, but they want to feel like they're engaged. They want to understand. About $500 million in turnover, makes us a large organisation, and communication was, as I'm sure it is in all other organisations, a challenge. We'd run staff opinion surveys, and the key feature each time that staff said to us was, I want communication to be better. So, we'll put the second one. This is a story about stingless bees. And this is a point where you start to go, hang on, university, workplace, group, now you're talking about stingless bees. You can read this, and my thanks to SWOOP, who's profiled us 2 years now, for each of the 2 years that we've been using it. I think we're now 2 years and 3 months, I think, into using Workplace. Our first profile was on one of our staff who is, again, probably one of the lead advocates for us around sustainability. And we targeted a number of staff to play that key role, as Jen mentioned. But let me tell you why we implemented it, just to give you the context. We knew that feedback from our staff was they wanted it better. So we set out to look at a series of platforms. We looked at Yammer, we looked at SharePoint, we looked at Workplace. I had a preference to use Workplace. University of New England had begun to use it as well. And again, what was key for us was the analytical power that was going to come from SWOOP, which we were not yet clear in relation to the other platforms. We set out 3 goals, all starting with a C. I don't know whether that was me imposing my will or whether the team was channeling me. We wanted them to communicate, we wanted them to connect, and we wanted them to collaborate. We knew they were communicating, our staff, but it was one way. I could send an all-staff email to 34,000 students or 2,500 staff. I could get some intelligence about whether it was open, whether it was read, but that's it. Very little engagement. So we chose Workplace, we moved through it, we went through a process of piloting it. After a 3-month period, a 20% increase in the level of satisfaction from our staff. But what started to emerge immediately, again I'll plug SWOOP, was the analytics. Who was posting, who was liking, who was commenting, when, what, why. That let me and our team then identify key people. And so as I said, in the first year when we had the profile, our National Sustainability Manager, who has a very dry sense of humour in an area where people are interested, we saw that he got engagement. And so we picked other staff, our Indigenous Employment Coordinator, our Social Infrastructure Coordinator, and said, do what he's doing and generate the enthusiasm. But a year later, in the case of this one, where I think we then clearly can say we moved from communicating to connecting to collaborating, staff, frontline staff, not necessarily any influencers or engager, felt confident in a platform where they could post a question, suggest something. So this is an example of a staff member who comes in, posts a post of her 2 children with a stingless bee nest that they put in their yard at home, saying, wouldn't this be great on our Brisbane campus? Now, she did it because she wanted to share the story. But she did it because she thought she may then get traction to change part of what we were doing. And she was right. I saw it and I looked at it. I'm in a position of influence. I'm in a position of seniority. So I comment and you know, I say yes. I think so. She posts it. You can't see the detail here. You can Google in the SWOOP case studies. And I said, I think this is a good idea. I like it. I tagged our property staff and said, what do you think? They went and spoke to her. Within a short period of time, we then set up stingless bee hives on our campus. She was thrilled, Daniela, because she came up with an idea. She didn't seek permission. She didn't ask, could she do this? She was comfortable enough in doing it. Our local staff felt comfortable enough engaging with her. I didn't pick stingless bees. I didn't pick the hives. And staff then liked it. They shared it, they commented on it, and they felt that it was an empowering sense. So again, if the plan was to communicate and to connect, it was also about collaborating. And at that point, just around our second anniversary of using Workplace and SWOOP, I felt we'd reached that. But I think we've gone one further. I think we've created community. Because what, as Jen said, there is a problem. There are some of us who use it explicitly, some of us who don't, but there's a whole heap in the middle, like all social media, who watch, and they like to watch. But again, with the power of SWOOP, we know what they watch. And when we see what they like, we then go and tell people, look, this post is popular, we want more of that. They want information about when the cafeteria is going to open, or they want to know about a new building. And so we're now able to then drive through some of the profiles here about what's going. If we can go to the third slide, thanks, Clive. This just gives you some measurements. Again, one of the things that we were very clear to do was to celebrate the process of using Workplace. And I'll be honest, there was an element of shaming in there. Now that's not particularly popular, but we wanted people to go into their office space at the water cooler and hear their colleagues talking about Workplace and then go, I've not been looking, maybe I feel a bit left out. And that works. We can see when we have key events, the first birthday, the second birthday, people come back. Some of the figures here you can see, they're huge in terms of the responses. You know, nearly 14,000 posts, over 20,000 comments, 140,000 reactions. The two figures down the bottom, and it goes again to Jen's point, and I can probably stop there because I'll go on to the panel. We get a huge uptake of claimed accounts. You might go, hang on, 72 is not great. Bear in mind, again, we've got 2,000 casual staff who then get an account. So we've actually, of our continuing full-time staff, we've got an enormous take-up. The 34% in the last 3 months, I won't single out Beth, but I will by doing it. This is sort of like, is this a good figure or is this a bad figure? Hang on, surely that would be better that was 68%. But I'm thrilled. This is 34% of nearly 4,000 staff in the last month who are actively participating. Now that might just be one single like, or it might be a share or a comment or a post, but they're in and they're engaged. And again, make the final point, and then I think I've earned my speaker's fee. It's the analytics that tells us that. The user can see it when they use Workplace, like any social media. You can see how many's liked it, you can click. They haven't got to the point where they're like Instagram and they're hiding the likes. But the analytics, and the real key thing, again, if I go back to Daniela, the empowerment. I've got 30 senior managers who are in our portfolio. And once a month, we list for them their analytics out of SWOOP. Half of them find it confronting because they're not performing well. And a number of them have said to me, is this a performance discussion? And I've said, if you think it is, then yes, I think it is. But we've let them then go in and think, and not to plug the nudge, there's the ability for them to work out how can they do it. So if you don't feel comfortable posting, don't play out of your message. But just go in and like your staff's comments. Go and share a comment to your team. And again, that changes the culture, but it's the power of the two platforms together. I might stop there, I think. I'm coming on to the panel. So I'm happy to take any questions now or take them into the panel, whatever suits you.
I don't think we can stop asking Stephen a few questions about this. Is that right?
Yeah.
So it sounds quite amazing. So we just give a quick round of applause.